This is Stars and Scopes with your pal Uma Ruby. Updated every new and full moon with guidance based on planetary transits in the current sky and extra support from tarot. For accuracy, do listen to your rising sign first if you know it, but do feel free to listen to your sun, moon and rising if you'd like the full picture. If you're loving this work and you've got some coins to spare, throw them in the tin over at buymeacoffee.com/Uma Ruby and you can buy me a coffee. Okay, let's drop into it. Hello Cancer and Cancer rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the new moon in Gemini happening on May the 30th. Now we can all breathe a collective sigh of relief for the moment as we let the effects of the eclipse season that we've just lived through this last month wash over us, and we can consolidate the changes, we can consolidate the shedding, and we can look forward to a nice, relaxed, regular new moon in Gemini that we have active ability and access to as far as our manifestation and our workability with the energy. Now, there's a couple of difficult-ish aspects that I want to get out of the way first before we get into the good stuff. Saturn is still in Aquarius at 25 degrees. So that's your 8th house. And Saturn, we remember, is the planet of rules and regulation and boundaries in a low vibration, sometimes a gag order and restriction. This time around, Saturn is in a square with Mercury in Taurus, which is at 26 degrees. Mercury is also retrograde. So there might be some short circuits going on as far as your communication styles or messages that are being given to you, or even if it's just even simple things like emails and tech buggering up, that could be something too. But to be in a square with Saturn, it does sort of tie in with that kind of sense of restriction. So whatever that might mean to you, remember, Aquarius is your 8th house, so that is death and rebirth and regeneration and plummeting to the bottom to rise again. So think about that and how that might be affecting what messages you are trying to get forward and why you might be being restricted right now in that way and not being able to. It's Mercury's fault. Kind of Saturn's fault, mostly Mercury's fault. So we'll move on from that potentially difficult sort of aspect and we'll focus in on the moon. So the new moon lunation is happening at 9 degrees in Gemini. Gemini rules your 12th house of the unspoken, the unconscious, the dreamscape, the most private part of ourselves, and not because we keep it to ourselves because we couldn't bear to tell anyone. It's just stuff that we just don't talk about because it's impossible. This is going to help you understand and regulate and come to terms with the idea that sometimes you can be having conversations with yourself a mile a minute in your unconscious reality. The activation of that part of yourself is really, really chatty, and that's something that's just innate and in you, and that's completely fine and natural and normal. So how do we use this as a space of manifestation? The tarot card that lines up with the moon's position at 9 degrees in Gemini is the 8 of Swords. And this is a potentially difficult aspect, but it also kind of has a lot to do with what we've just spoken about. When the 8 of Swords comes out, it's a moment of being trapped by your thought forms, of being caged in, of having too many options or not enough, or too many worries that are kind of keeping you in one place and making you feel like you have no power, that you're being jailed by them, really. That feeling of being in jail from your own thoughts. That's kind of what the 8 of Swords represents. So this is good because a new moon is that active space of manifestation. So how can we move past this? How can we manifest a 12th house, a dream world, an unconsciousness that is fertile and that works for us? How can we use the moon's power to break us free from this 8 of Swords cage, this worry of the different options and the terror sometimes that can come with that? They can also represent traumas, you know what I mean? When sometimes, the memories come flooding back all of a sudden in the blink of an eye. This is a moment to manifest coping strategies and active healing. So that's the moon. There's a supportive aspect that's lending some good help with this new moon. Jupiter, our lovely auntie planet, the big gaseous one that is really supportive and expands everything that it touches, that really zones in and chimes in and zooms in on whatever company it's in, is in a conjunction with Mars, who is our fire leader, our warrior, the one that leads the charge, the one that dives in and gets things done, that sort of strikes the match and makes it all happen. So Jupiter is there supporting Mars in Aries. Now, Mars is happy as Larry in Aries. They couldn't be happier. The tarot card that actually lines up with the degree at 4 degrees where Mars is literally the Mars in Aries card. It's the Two of Wands. It's that action plan. It's writing the treasure map, that moment of moving forward, of looking out and having the whole world in your hands, and so much potential, but potential backed up by passion and drive and conviction. So this energy is all in support of this new moon. So think about it in those terms. You've got some people in your corner this time around, which is really, really great. And also, Aries rules your 10th house of career and your public face, your most noticeable public perception, what you do for a life's work. So Jupiter and Mars in that part of your world is, for the next bit of time, going to be really, really great for you. It's going to be a great help for getting some things off the ground or for supporting some things in your current career that might be feeling a bit destable. So that's all what's happening upstairs in the sky. I've also pulled some separate cards from a separate deck to give a more intuitive viewpoint in this reading to see if we can sew the two together. And interestingly, I got the Temperance card as your base note, the back of the deck, but in reverse. So Temperance upright is that ability to balance light and shade, to mix fire and water, and to temper oneself, to have one foot on the ground, one foot in the ocean, to really have that sense of equilibrium. There's an angel pictured on the Temperance card that is the master of that is enveloping the reader in a sense of security. Unfortunately for us, it's upside down. So there's an imbalance here in some way. Maybe you're putting too much of yourself in one part of your life and not the other. Maybe you're putting too much fire, you're too much career energy and not enough emotional energy, not enough water, not enough self, your Cancer self. It could be the opposite way. You could be doozying up the whipsy and spending all of your time in emotional land and not giving a second thought to your public self and your passions and your vocation. So that's the base note for this bit of the reading. Then I got the Queen of Cups in reverse, I got the Ace of Cups upright, and I got the Three of Swords in reverse. Now this is good. It's a shame that the Queen of Cups is upside down, but I sort of see that as you, maybe represented in this reading. This is your energy, this sort of disimbalance, this Queen of Cups upright is, an emotional well. She's got everything for everyone, and she's bountiful, and she's giving back and forth, and she's got an ear for every heartache. She's got so much compassion and time to spare for people in need. Upright, she doesn't. She's cut off, or she's giving too much away. Her boundaries are low. She's not in a position where she should be being so generous with her energy, because she needs to reserve that for some of her own. This is followed up by the Ace of Cups, which is a direct offer from Spirit Land, a beautiful regenerative cup, overflowing, full of emotion, full of a new start. So this to me is being offered to the Queen. So this is great. This is this moment to dip into your unconscious self, the 12th house, dreamland, and to manifest and actively call in some beautiful changes and growth in that area is being offered to you by Spirit. So keep your ear out in your dreams to see what happens. And finally, the Three of Swords in reverse is lovely, because that's the end of a trauma cycle. That is the end of grief. That is coming and healing from something that has been playing at your brain for some time now in a really hurtful way. So this is really positive. So I think there's a lot to be gained from this new moon for you, Cancer. So please do put it to the best use and don't get too stuck in career land, but don't get too unstuck in there too. All right, if you'd like to give me a tip, you can. You can head to buymeacoffee.com/Uma Ruby. I am accepting coffees and books. Until I speak to you in 2 weeks at the Sagittarius full moon, take care of yourself. New moon blessings. I love you very much, Cancer, and I'll speak to you then. Ta-da.